Our destination tonight is a city of immense splendor and profound struggle. A jewel of the Mughal Empire. We are traveling to 17th century Lahore. But we will not be visiting the grand palaces or the perfumed courts of emperors, not at first. Our journey begins in the narrow, winding, and crowded alleyways of the old walled city. We are going to explore a life of immense skill, of constant effort, and of quiet dignity. So, relax. Close your eyes if you feel comfortable doing so. Let your mind drift as we step into the heat, the noise, and the intricate, exhausting world of a weaver in 17th century Lahore. There is no need to follow every detail. The story will be here, waiting for you, whenever you wish to listen. Allow the gentle rhythm of the past to guide you toward a deep and restful sleep. The day in Lahore begins not with a sudden alarm, but with a gradual surrender to the light and heat. Long before the sun crests the flat rooftops of the walled city, a pale, pearlescent glow begins to wash over the sky. For the weaver, asleep on a simple charpoy, a woven bed on the roof of his small mud-brick house, this is the first call to stir. The air at this pre-dawn hour is the coolest it will be all day, a fleeting, precious reprieve. It carries on it the smells of the night, the dampness of the earth, the faint, lingering scent of jasmine from a neighbour's courtyard, and the ever-present dusty aroma of the city itself. Imagine yourself stirring in this moment. The rough fibres of the charpoy press against your back. Below you, in the narrow alleyway, the world is still hushed. You can hear the soft rustle of your family members, also preparing for the day inside the small, dark rooms below. Life in these quarters is lived in close proximity, a constant, shared existence within the dense urban fabric of the city. The weaver's home is not a grand haveli. There are no marble fountains or expansive courtyards here. It is a humble dwelling, likely situated in a neighborhood teeming with other artisans, blacksmiths, potters, dyers, a community bound by craft and a shared precarious economic reality. The house is made of baked bricks and mud, designed to stay as cool as possible during the oppressive heat of the Lahori summer. The rooms are small, with thick walls and few windows, creating a dim, cave-like interior that offers some respite from the relentless sun. The first task of the day is prayer. The call of the muezzin from a nearby mosque, perhaps the magnificent Wazir Khan Mosque whose towering minarets punctuate the skyline, drifts across the rooftops. It is a sound that weaves itself into the very fabric of the city's life, a steady, dependable rhythm in a world of uncertainty. After ablutions, using carefully conserved water drawn from a communal well, the weaver and his family will partake in a simple breakfast, a piece of flatbread, perhaps some yogurt, or a small portion of lentils left from the previous night. Every resource is precious. Now, as the sun begins to assert its authority, casting sharp, angular shadows across the alleyways, the weaver's workday begins. His workshop, his karkhana, is not a separate building but an integral part of his home. It might be a covered space on the ground floor, open to the alley, or a designated room within the house. Here sits the instrument of his livelihood, the loom. It is not a complex mechanized thing. It is a simple wooden frame, a gori, that has been used by generations before him. Yet, in his hands, this simple machine is capable of creating textures and patterns of breathtaking beauty. The air in this space is thick with the scent of raw materials, the earthy smell of cotton, the slightly lanolin aroma of wool, and the sharper chemical tang of dyes. The weaver's primary material is cotton. The Mughal Empire is a powerhouse of textile production, and Indian cotton is renowned across the world. But the weaver does not produce his own raw materials. He is part of a complex and often exploitative economic system. He is a crucial link in a long chain that begins in the cotton fields of the Punjab and ends in the bustling bazaars of Lahore, or even in the distant markets of Persia and Europe. Most often, the weaver does not work for himself. He is beholden to a merchant, a middleman who provides the raw materials and dictates the final product. This merchant advances the weaver money or materials, a system that creates a perpetual cycle of debt and dependency. The weaver is given a specific quantity of raw silk or cotton and is expected to produce a textile of a certain quality and design within a stipulated time. He has little to no autonomy. He is, in essence, a contract labourer, his skill rented out to serve the demands of the market. Imagine the weaver now settling in at his loom. His body from a young age has been conditioned to this work. The act of weaving is physically demanding. He sits for hours on end, his posture often strained, his back aching. His feet work the pedals, raising and lowering the warp threads. the vertical strands that form the backbone of the fabric. His hands, calloused and nimble, expertly pass the weft thread, the horizontal strand, back and forth, using a shuttle. The sound of the loom is the dominant sound of his life, a rhythmic, hypnotic clatter, thump, clack, slide. Thump, clack, slide. It is a sound that fills the small workspace, a sound that his children grow up hearing, a sound that signifies both sustenance and servitude. For hours, this is his world. The steady, repetitive motion, the intense focus required to ensure the pattern emerges correctly, the constant physical strain. The light is poor. Inside the dim workshop, his eyes must work hard to distinguish the fine threads, especially when he is working on intricate patterns. The air grows hotter as the morning progresses. Lahore's summers are famously brutal, with temperatures regularly soaring. Dust from the unpaved alleyway outside settles on everything, including the pristine threads of his loom. He must be meticulous, keeping his work clean, as any imperfection could result in a lower payment from the merchant. His family often works alongside him. His wife might be responsible for spinning the raw cotton into thread, a painstaking process done with a simple hand spindle. Her fingers, like his, are skilled and quick, but the work is endless. His children, from a young age, are initiated into the craft. A young son might be tasked with winding thread onto bobbins, while an older daughter might assist with dyeing the yarn. Dyeing is a complex and often hazardous process. The vibrant colors that make Mughal textiles so desirable, deep indigos, rich madder reds, brilliant saffrons, are derived from natural sources, but the process involves boiling vats, caustic solutions, and long hours of strenuous work. The family's hands are often stained with the colors of their trade. The midday sun is now at its peak. The heat is a physical presence, a heavy blanket that smothers the city. The narrow streets, which offered some shade in the morning, are now like ovens. The sounds of the city have swelled to a constant, clamorous din. The shouts of vendors, the braying of donkeys, the distant hammering of a coppersmith, the murmur of countless conversations. Life spills out from the houses into the streets. It is a world without privacy, a constant swirl of activity. The weaver takes a break, but it is a short one. The pressure to meet the merchant's deadline is ever present. A simple meal is eaten, more flatbread, perhaps with a thin vegetable curry. Water is drunk sparingly. Dehydration is a constant threat. He looks at the piece of fabric taking shape on his loom. Perhaps it is a simple, coarse cotton, a khadar, destined for local use as tablecloths or basic clothing. Or perhaps it is a finer piece, a delicate muslin, so thin it is almost transparent, destined for the wardrobe of a wealthy merchant's wife or a court noble. He might even be a carpet weaver, one of the highly skilled artisans who produce the magnificent floral carpets for which Lahore is famous. If so, his work is even more complex. He follows a detailed pattern chart, a talim, which dictates the color and placement of every single knot. The wool, or perhaps even luxurious pashmina, is soft beneath his fingers, but the work is incredibly slow. A single carpet can take months, even years to complete, the product of countless hours of meticulous, eye-straining labor. Regardless of the final product, the weaver's share of the profit is meager. After the merchant takes his cut, and after the cost of any materials not provided is accounted for, little is left. The dream of social mobility, of rising from the artisan class to the middle class of merchants and professionals, is almost unattainable. He is trapped in a system that relies on his skill but offers little reward. He works in a city renowned for its wealth and splendor, yet he lives a life of subsistence, always just one failed monsoon or one punitive tax away from destitution. As the afternoon wears on, the heat begins to relent, but only slightly. The light in the workshop starts to fade. The weaver's eyes burn from the strain. His shoulders and back are a geography of dull aches. This is the rhythm of his life, day in and day out. A constant struggle against time, heat, dust, and debt. He is not a figure of grand historical importance. He will not be mentioned in the chronicles of the Mughal emperors. His name is not inscribed on any monument. Yet, he and thousands like him are the engine of the empire's commercial might. Their silent, tireless labor creates the wealth that funds the magnificent tombs, the sprawling gardens, and the lavish lifestyles of the elite. The beauty of the Mughal court is built upon the foundation of their exhaustion. When the light finally fails, the weaver's workday is done. The loom falls silent. The family gathers for their evening meal, the main meal of the day. The alleyway outside is alive with the sounds of evening. children playing, neighbors gossiping, the aroma of cooking fires hanging heavy in the air. For a few hours, there is a sense of community, of shared experience. But the anxieties are never far away. The weaver worries about the quality of his work. Will the merchant be pleased? Will he be paid fairly? The price of cotton has been rising, making it harder to survive on the meager advances. He has heard stories of other weavers who, unable to fulfill their contracts, were punished harshly or fell into even deeper debt. The system of gomastas, the merchant's agents who supervise the weavers, is notoriously unforgiving. As night falls, the family retreats once more to the relative cool of the rooftop. They lay out their charpoys under a sky now filled with a brilliant spray of 1,000,000 stars, undimmed by the artificial lights of a future age. The city below begins to quiet down, the cacophony of the day softening into a gentle murmur. The weaver lies on his back, his body tired, his mind filled with the quiet calculations of survival. He is a master of his craft, a creator of beauty, yet his life is a testament to the harsh reality that for the vast majority of people in this celebrated city, life was not a grand epic, but a constant, wearying struggle. And as he closes his eyes, the last sound he hears is not the distant music of the court, but the gentle, rhythmic creak of his neighbor's loom, already starting on the next day's labor. It is the lullaby of his world, a sound of both solace and unending toil. From the endless, rhythmic clatter of the weaver's loom, we now allow our focus to drift. Let the image of the dusty workshop dissolve, and let the sounds of the crowded alleyways fade into a respectful distance. We move from a life defined by the labor of the hands to one consumed by the workings of the mind and the heart. We travel from the anonymous lanes of the city upward into the imposing red stone confines of the Lahore fort, the seat of imperial power. Here, within these formidable walls, lived a man for whom the city of Lahore was both a beloved home and a place of profound and tragic isolation. His name was Dara Shikoh. He was the eldest son of the reigning Mughal emperor, Shah Jahan, the great builder, the patron of the Taj Mahal, and his beloved wife, Mumtaz Mahal. Born into the pinnacle of worldly power, Dara's life was, from its first breath, one of immense privilege. He was the favored son, the designated heir, the prince upon whom an entire empire rested its hopes. And yet, his path was not one of conquest or political maneuvering, but of scholarship, art, and a deep spiritual yearning that would ultimately set him apart and seal his fate. Imagine Dara as a young man, not in a throne room, but in his library. This is his sanctuary. The air here is cool, a stark contrast to the searing heat outside the thick palace walls. It smells of old paper, leather bindings, and the faint, sweet scent of ink. Light, filtered through intricately carved marble screens, known as jalis, falls in soft, patterned pools across plush carpets and scattered cushions. The clamour of the city, the world of the weaver, is an almost imperceptible hum, a distant reality. Dara is not surrounded by soldiers or ministers, but by books, stacks of them, precious handwritten manuscripts in Persian, Arabic, and Sanskrit. His passion is not for the ledger books of the empire or the strategies of warfare, but for the grand, esoteric questions of existence. He is a scholar, a philosopher, a mystic. He spends his days in quiet contemplation, poring over the sacred texts of different faiths. He is a devout Muslim, yet he finds profound wisdom in the Hindu Upanishads and the teachings of Christian missionaries. He believes, with a deep and abiding conviction, that all religions are streams flowing towards the same ocean of truth. He calls this meeting point the Majmul Bahrain, the mingling of the two oceans. This is a radical idea in an age often defined by rigid orthodoxy. It is an intellectual pursuit that brings him immense personal fulfillment, but it also sows the seeds of suspicion among the more conservative elements of the court. To them, his inclusivity is not a sign of enlightenment, but of heresy. Picture him in conversation, not with generals, but with holy men. He seeks out Sufi saints, Hindu yogis, and Jesuit priests, inviting them into the serene gardens of his Lahore palace. These are his confidants, his intellectual sparring partners. Their discussions are not of tax revenues or provincial appointments, but of the nature of the soul, the mysteries of the divine, and the path to spiritual liberation. He listens with an open, earnest curiosity, his mind a fertile ground for ideas that cross the rigid boundaries of faith. He commissions great works of art and translation, seeking to build bridges of understanding. Under his patronage, the Upanishads are translated from Sanskrit into Persian, opening up a universe of Hindu philosophy to the Persian-speaking Islamic world. This is the core of Dara Shiko's being. He is a prince who would rather hold a book than a sword, a man who seeks to unite rather than to divide. But in the unforgiving world of Mughal politics, these qualities are not strengths, they are vulnerabilities. While Dara is lost in his spiritual and intellectual pursuits, his younger brother, Aurangzeb, is playing a very different game. Aurangzeb is everything Dara is not. He is pragmatic, ruthless, and a brilliant military commander. He is also a staunch religious conservative, who views Dara's syncretism with deep suspicion and contempt. While Dara cultivates an image of a philosopher king, Aurangzeb cultivates the support of the military and the orthodox clergy. He paints Dara as an apostate, a man unfit to rule the faithful. Imagine the subtle, creeping sense of isolation that must have surrounded Dara, even within the opulence of his palaces. The whispers in the corridors of the fort, the sideways glances from courtiers who are hedging their bets, the letters from his brother filled with feigned respect that barely conceals a chilling ambition. Shah Jahan, their father, is aging, his health is failing. The question of succession, always a bloody affair in the Mughal dynasty, hangs heavy in the air. Dara remains in Lahore, or at the imperial capital in Delhi, largely content to be the scholar and the heir apparent. He is given governorships of wealthy provinces, but he often rules them from a distance, preferring the comforts of the court to the rugged life of a provincial administrator. He lacks Aurangzeb's experience on the battlefield and in the trenches of political intrigue. He is a man of ideas, thrust into a world that demands decisive, often brutal, action. He is insulated by his privilege, surrounded by people who tell him what he wants to hear. He underestimates his brother's cunning and the deep well of his ambition. The inevitable happens. Shah Jahan falls gravely ill. The carefully maintained facade of fraternal loyalty shatters instantly. Aurangzeb, along with his other brothers, declares that Dara has usurped the throne and begins to march his armies towards the capital. The war of succession has begun. Dara is forced to trade his library for a battlefield. The philosopher must become a general. Imagine his inner turmoil. The man who sought the unity of all faiths must now lead an army against his own brother. He is a reluctant commander, and it shows. He makes strategic errors. He is indecisive. At the pivotal battle of Samugar, he is outmaneuvered by Aurangzeb's superior tactics and discipline. Here, in the heat and dust and terrible noise of battle, the grim reality of the world he had sought to transcend comes crashing down upon him. This is not a philosophical debate. It is a brutal struggle for survival. The descriptions of the battle are harrowing. The clash of steel, the trumpeting of war elephants, the cries of men. It is a world of violence and chaos that is utterly alien to Dara's gentle, contemplative nature. In a moment of catastrophic misjudgment, urged by a treacherous advisor, Dara dismounts from his war elephant at a critical moment in the battle. Seeing his empty howdah, his troops believe him to be dead. Panic spreads through his ranks. His army breaks and flees. The battle, and with it the empire, is lost. Dara becomes a fugitive. The heir to the throne is now a hunted man, fleeing across the very empire he was meant to rule. Imagine the desperation of this flight. The former master of palaces now sleeps in humble shelters. The man who commanded immense wealth now struggles for basic provisions. He is betrayed by those he trusts. His beloved wife dies from exhaustion during their flight, a blow from which he never truly recovers. He is eventually captured, bound in chains and paraded through the streets of Delhi on a filthy elephant. It is a deliberate act of humiliation orchestrated by Aurangzeb, designed to shatter the mystique of the philosopher prince. The citizens of Delhi, who once admired him, weep at the sight of his degradation. Finally, on Aurangzeb's orders, he is declared a heretic and executed. His life, a quest for spiritual enlightenment, ends in a moment of brutal, politically motivated violence. His head is sent to Aurangzeb as proof of the deed, and it is said that his body was buried in an unmarked grave. The story of Dara Shikoh is the story of an idealist in a world that had no place for him. His isolation was twofold. First, the intellectual and spiritual isolation of a man whose ideas were ahead of his time. And second, the physical isolation of his final days, abandoned and hunted. He represents a different path the Mughal Empire could have taken, a path of greater tolerance, cultural fusion, and intellectual curiosity. But it was not to be. The sword proved mightier than the book. And so, as we leave the tragic figure of Dara Shikoh, we are left with a quiet sense of what might have been. The silence in his library, once a symbol of peaceful contemplation, now echoes with a profound and permanent loss. Now let us turn from the lives of individuals from the weaver in his workshop and the prince in his palace. Let us turn our attention to the city itself, to its bones, its secrets, its hidden places. We will move from the visible world of streets and buildings and venture downward into the cool, dark earth beneath Lahore to uncover its hidden tunnels and forgotten hammams. Imagine yourself standing in the heart of the walled city. The sun is high, and the air is thick with the energy of 1,000,000 lives being lived. The streets are a labyrinth, a chaotic but strangely beautiful tapestry of commerce and community. You see the grand facades of the mosques, the colourful awnings of the bazaars, the carved wooden balconies of the Havalis. This is the public face of Lahore. But beneath your feet, another city exists, a hidden network of passages, a subterranean world of secrets and shadows. For centuries, whispers have circulated about a system of tunnels beneath Lahore, tunnels connecting the Lahore fort to the Shalimar Gardens miles away, tunnels providing secret escape routes for royalty in times of siege, tunnels allowing nobles to travel unseen from their residences to the court or to their private pleasure gardens. While the full extent of these tunnels remains the stuff of legend, many have been discovered, fragments of this hidden world. Imagine the purpose of such a passage. For a king or a prince like Darashiko, it was a matter of security, a way to move his family to safety or to slip through an enemy's siege lines. Picture a narrow, brick-lined corridor, just tall enough for a person to walk through stooped. The air is cool and damp, thick with the smell of wet earth and centuries of disuse. The only light comes from the flickering flame of a torch, casting long, dancing shadows on the curved walls. The only sound is the soft scuff of your own footsteps and the drip, drip, drip of water seeping through the ancient mortar. These tunnels were not just for escape. They were also conduits of privacy and intrigue. A nobleman might use a tunnel to visit a lover without attracting the attention of court gossips. A minister might use one for a clandestine meeting with a conspirator. They were the hidden veins of the city, allowing for a secret life to unfold beneath the public gaze. Many of these tunnels are now collapsed, filled with rubble and the debris of time, but some sections remain. Archaeologists and explorers have ventured into these dark spaces, finding passages that lead from the basements of old Havalis towards the fort, or that seem to end abruptly, their destinations lost to history. To walk in one of these tunnels is to walk in a space outside of time, a place where the secrets of the Mughal court feel almost tangible in the oppressive, silent darkness. From these secret private spaces, let us now move to a place that was, in its own way, both public and intensely private, a place of cleansing, of health, and of community. Let us imagine the city's hammams, its public bathhouses. In the 17th century, a hammam was far more than just a place to get clean. It was a vital social institution. With no running water in private homes, the hammam was a necessity for hygiene. But it was also a place of relaxation, of business, and of social gathering. Let's imagine ourselves stepping into one of Lahore's grander hammams, like the one built by Wazir Khan near his famous mosque. You pass through a modest doorway from the bustling street into a different world. The first room, the Jamidar Khana, is the reception and changing area. It is a large, cool, and relatively dry space. The air is scented with perfumes and oils. Niches in the walls hold the clothes and belongings of the patrons. The sound here is a low, pleasant murmur of conversation as men lounge on benches, sipping sherbet and catching up on news and gossip. From here, you move into the warm room, the Neem Garam. The air becomes humid, a gentle steam beginning to soften your skin. The temperature is pleasant, a preparation for what is to come. And then you step into the heart of the hammam, the Garam Khana, the hot room. The change is immediate and immersive. A thick, billowing cloud of steam fills the air, so dense you can barely see across the chamber. The room is cavernous, with a high, domed ceiling, designed to allow the condensed water to run down the walls, rather than drip onto the patrons below. Small, coloured glass windows set into the dome cast a dim, ethereal light through the steam, creating a dreamlike, watery atmosphere. The heat is intense, but it is a wet, cleansing heat. It seeps into your muscles, easing the aches of a life like the weaver's, or soothing the troubled mind of a courtier. The dominant sound is the gentle, echoing splash of water, of buckets being filled and emptied, of water being poured over heated bodies. It is a sound that is both calming and constant. You would see the figures of other men, their bodies slick with water and steam, moving like ghosts through the thick vapor. Some are being vigorously scrubbed by bath attendants, their skin turning red under the friction of the coarse cloths. Others are simply sitting on the heated marble floors, allowing the steam to work its magic. Their faces serene in the warm twilight. Conversations here are hushed, intimate, the acoustics of the domed chamber giving them a soft, resonant quality. Business deals were struck in this steam-filled room, marriages arranged, political alliances forged. It was a place where social hierarchies were temporarily softened, where a merchant and a nobleman might sweat side by side. After the heat of the steam room, you would move to a cooling room, and then perhaps receive a massage with fragrant oils. The entire process was a ritual, a slow, deliberate journey of purification for both the body and the mind. It was a temporary escape from the dust, the noise, and the pressures of the outside world. A sanctuary of warmth, water, and quiet companionship. Today, these grand hammams are mostly gone or lie in ruins. The Wazir Khan Hammam was excavated and restored, a beautiful but silent shell of its former self. You can walk through its empty chambers and admire the architecture, but the steam, the water, the life that once filled it is gone. Like the hidden tunnels, they are a reminder of a layer of life that has vanished, leaving only faint traces behind. They speak of a different relationship with the body, with community, and with the city itself. A reminder that for every public monument that stands tall, there are countless hidden spaces, forgotten rituals, and secret histories that lie buried, waiting to be imagined, just beneath the surface. From the dark, earthy confines of the city's secret passages and the steamy intimacy of its bathhouses, let us now travel a few miles outside the walled city's gates. Let us move into a world of curated perfection, of breathtaking beauty, and of a different kind of isolation altogether. Our journey takes us to the Shalimar Gardens, the abode of bliss, and to the lives of the nobility who inhabited this paradise on earth. If the weaver's world was defined by confinement and toil, the noble's world in Shalimar was one of expansive, almost overwhelming sensory pleasure. The gardens, commissioned by Shah Jahan, were a masterpiece of Mughal engineering and aesthetics, a representation of the Quranic vision of paradise, made manifest through water, stone, and plant life. Imagine yourself as a court noble, a guest of the emperor arriving at the gardens. You leave the dusty, chaotic landscape of the Punjab behind and pass through a high, imposing gate. The transformation is instantaneous. Before you lies a vision of perfect symmetry and order. The garden is laid out in 3 descending terraces, a design that is both visually stunning and acoustically brilliant. The first thing you notice is the sound. It is the sound of water everywhere. Not the gentle splash of a single fountain, but a grand, orchestrated symphony of water in motion. There are over 400 fountains in the Shalimar Gardens, lining the long central water channels and erupting from the center of wide marble pools. The sound is a constant, soothing, and powerful presence, a display of the empire's mastery over nature itself. In the blistering heat of a Lahore summer, this sound and the cool mist that hangs in the air is the very definition of luxury. As you walk along the brick-paved pathways, you are enveloped by the scent of flowers, thousands of them, roses, jasmine, marigolds, and countless other varieties, planted in precise geometric flower beds. The air is heavy with their perfume, a stark contrast to the smells of the crowded city. The visual landscape is a feast of color and form, the deep green of the cypress trees, the vibrant hues of the flowers, the stark white of the marble pavilions, and the shimmering turquoise blue of the water, all set against the red of the brick walkways and enclosure walls. Life for a noble in this setting was a performance of leisure. The days were not structured by the rising of the sun or the demands of a loom, but by a delicate and unyielding code of courtly etiquette. The goal was to live a life of refined, effortless grace. A nobleman's day might begin late, with servants drawing scented water for his bath. His attire would be of the finest materials, delicate muslins from Dhaka, rich silks embroidered with gold thread. Every element of his appearance was carefully considered. After a leisurely breakfast of fruits, breads, and sweetmeats, the day would be given over to cultivated pastimes. Perhaps he would indulge in a game of chess in one of the cool marble pavilions that seemed to float upon the water. Or maybe he would practice calligraphy, the elegant Persian script flowing from his brush. Poetry was central to courtly life. Groups of nobles would gather to recite their own verses or to appreciate the classics, their voices a soft counterpoint to the music of the fountains. The evenings were the pinnacle of Shalimar's splendor. As the sun began to set, thousands of tiny oil lamps would be lit, their flames reflecting in the water channels, transforming the gardens into a magical, glittering wonderland. The emperor or a high-ranking prince might host a gathering. The air would be filled with the sound of music, the sitar, the sarod, the soft beat of the tabla, drifting from the pavilions. Dancers would perform, their movements fluid and graceful. The feasts were legendary. Course after course of elaborate dishes would be served on silver and porcelain. Rich, aromatic pilafs, slow-cooked meat curries infused with saffron and cardamom, delicate kebabs, and an array of desserts made with milk, sugar, and rose water. It was a world of unimaginable abundance, designed to delight every sense. Yet beneath this veneer of perfect pleasure lay a profound isolation. The gardens were a bubble, a gilded cage. The high walls that kept the dust and noise of the real world out also created a barrier of deep detachment. The struggles of the weaver, the famines that could ravage the countryside, the political unrest brewing in distant provinces. These were abstract concepts here, distant rumors that rarely penetrated the perfumed air of this man-made paradise. Life was also fraught with a different kind of anxiety. The court of the Mughals was a place of constant, subtle intrigue. A careless word, a misjudged alliance, a moment of falling out of favor with the emperor could mean instant ruin. The smiles of fellow courtiers could mask bitter rivalries. Every conversation was layered with hidden meanings. The nobleman had to be a master of observation, constantly navigating the treacherous currents of power. His position, his wealth, his very life depended not on hard work, but on maintaining his status in this closed, competitive world. His freedom was in many ways an illusion. His life was bound by protocol. He could not simply leave the gardens and wander into the city. His movements were prescribed, his companions chosen for him. He was as much a part of the curated landscape as the cypress trees and the fountains, an ornamental feature in the grand imperial display. So, while the weaver in his workshop experienced the hardship of physical toil and economic exploitation, the noble in his garden experienced the suffocating pressure of perpetual scrutiny and the deep, existential emptiness of a life detached from genuine purpose. His struggle was not for bread, but for relevance. His fear was not of starvation, but of disgrace. Two lives lived just miles apart in the same city of Lahore, yet separated by a chasm of experience so vast as to constitute two different realities, two different worlds. The opulence of the garden only served to highlight the profound isolation at its heart. And so, our journey through 17th century Lahore comes to a gentle close. We have walked its dusty, crowded streets with the weaver, feeling the ache in his back and the constant low-level hum of anxiety for his family's survival. We have sat in the silent, perfumed library of a philosopher prince, a man whose quest for universal truth could not save him from the brutal realities of power. We have felt the cool, damp air of the city's hidden tunnels and the cleansing steam of its forgotten bathhouses, imagining the secret lives and quiet rituals they once contained. And we have stood amidst the almost overwhelming beauty of the Shalimar Gardens, sensing the profound loneliness that can exist even in paradise. The weaver, the prince, the city's hidden spaces, the isolated noble, each a different thread in the complex tapestry of the past. Each a reminder that history is not a single grand narrative, but a mosaic of countless individual experiences, of joy and sorrow, of struggle and splendor, all coexisting. Tonight you lie in comfort and in safety. The heat of the Lahori sun does not beat down upon you. The anxieties of the weaver and the prince are not your own. The world we have visited is distant, separated from you by centuries of silence. All that remains is the story. A gentle murmur from the past, a quiet reminder of the lives that came before. Let these stories now recede. Let the images of Lahore dissolve like a dream upon waking. There is nothing more to see, nothing more to do. Allow the darkness to be a comforting blanket. Allow the silence to be a peaceful space. Feel the gentle rhythm of your own breath, steady and calm. The past is at rest, and now so are you. Let go of the day, let go of the story, and drift into a deep and peaceful sleep.